Okay, hi everyone. Let's have a look today at building a structure in SketchUp that has got a little bit more detail than your standard tutorial. So you've probably seen plenty of examples on the web of buildings like this one over here. We can see, and the problem with this building, when we have a look at it, is it's got two-dimensional surfaces, and the windows are just sort of sat into it, so it looks a little bit like a deck of cards, and it's difficult to work with that type of structure, and it's not particularly convincing for someone to look at it. So what I want to do today is have a look at building this kind of basic pavilion style structure, which is broken down into pieces, and if you have a look at it, you can see that it's got a little bit more depth to the walls and to the structure, and there's a bit more structure to the windows as well, so that we can create something that's a little bit more convincing, but it's also going to be easier to edit as well. So that's where we're going to go. So first up, let's just get rid of all that. Okay, let's start out from scratch. So I like to use architectural in millimeters, and that's what I'll be working in this, but it's up to you what method you want to use. So I might just make a new one. Okay, and new from template. Okay, architectural in millimeters. Okay, and you usually get this grey background when you're working in millimeters. So first thing we're going to do is ditch our person there, get rid of them, and I like to have the large tool set up as well. So under view here, we can go tool palettes, large tool set, keep that checked on. Okay, so I'll just bring it up, tool palettes, large tool set, and that's going to give us everything we need. And I've also got a layers palette, which is going to be handy, and an entity info palette. I'll just hide those away. You can get those from under your windows there. And I've also got a materials palette as well. So I'll just stick those down there. And we're going to work a lot with the measurements down here in the corner as well. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw ourselves a floor. Now you really want to know some dimensions about what size your building is going to be before you start, and what the floor plan is going to look like, and that'll make your life a lot easier. If you can work in dimensions in SketchUp, it's the way to go. Okay, so let's pop something in. So we might go 12 meters, so 12,000 by, we might go by 7,000. Okay, and that's going to give us something like this to work with. Okay, so this is going to be our floor slab as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I might raise this up out of the ground, and I might give it 300 mils. Oops, 300 mils, that's good. Okay, so that will be what the building's based on. I'm not going to show any foundations underneath that, but that'll just be the plinth that it sits on for the moment. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to dial in the wall height, the wall width, sorry, onto this slab. So I'm going to use this here. I'm going to do an offset, and I'm going to click once and bring it in. And you'll see down here in the bottom corner that it tells me how many millimeters it's going to be. So I'm going to make it 300 millimeters wide in the walls, and I hit return. Okay, and that gives me the setup for what I'm after. Good one. Okay, I'm going to triple click on this, and triple click selects the entirety of the object. And when I've done that, I'm going to bring up this panel here. Okay, I've got layers and I've got entity info. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to just make a group out of this. You can make it a group or a component. I'm only going to have one slab, so I'll make it a group. But if you're doing multiples like stair treads, then you'd probably use make a component, and then you can edit one and they all edit. So let's just go make group for starters. Okay. So the main thing is when we make something a group is that it means that it doesn't weld onto other objects. So it's pretty much self-contained then, and I can double click on it to go into edit it, but when it's when I'm not in that edit mode, I can't accidentally keep sticking geometry to it and make something that I can't sort of undo or hide if necessary. Okay, so if you imagine that now is the concrete slab and this thickness is the walls. Okay, so I'm going to have this with some piers on the corners. So I'm going to just draw these in. Okay, so drawing these in basically on top of the slab and not in the edit mode of the slab. Okay, so these are just sitting on here. I'm just going corner to corner and you can see that it's snapping in. And those two objects are actually occupying the same space. All right, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to select that one and I'm going to, come out a little bit and I'm going to raise it up. So I'm going to use my extrude and I'm going to bring it up and I'll give it a ceiling height of, I'll go quite big, I'll go 3000 on this, okay, so over height, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same, raise it up, touch on this one and it will infer the same height and we'll have a pair of those at the same height. Okay, I'm going to make this like a box structure with girders around it. So I'm going to basically come in again, grab this, I'm going to raise this one up. Okay, that's good. I'm going to, same thing, raise this one up. Okay, that's cool. My extrude. Again, touch the top of that one, it infers the height, that's all good. Okay, so they are going to be holding up the roof structure on the house. I'm going to have steel beams running between these, but I'm also going to have some block wall and combination of block wall and windows in between as well. Okay, so what I want to do is wherever I've got windows, I want to draw down a center line. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to, let's have a look. I've got a total length of about 11,400. So I'm going to come in maybe around 7, I might come in, let's say 5,000. Okay, so I'm just typing in the bottom there. And then when I move my mouse along, you can see it touches and goes green. So I'm going to rule at 90 degrees with my pencil straight across. And I'm also going to come along, take this midpoint, and I'm going to come right back here, okay? So this is going to form where, excuse me, where my window is going to go. So the windows are going to set on the center line in this case. So the panes will be set in. And I'm going to do the same here. So I'm going to just get a midpoint, and this will be all glass along the front, so I'll come right across. That's good. That'll give me a line to work with. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back maybe a fair way here. So I might come back maybe 9,000. Okay, so this will be a long line of glass. And I'm just going to rule across at the end. And then I'm going to just draw a square around in here just using my pencil. That's good. Okay, so then I can raise that as a block wall later on. So we'll leave these piers in place. I think I'll put a block wall right through the back. I might look at putting a door in this back corner here. So if we're doing doors, it's the same sort of thing. So let's make this fairly wide, this door. So let's make it 1200 wide, which gives us, it's an extra wide door, and that gives us room to get a wheelchair through there. So the house is nice and accessible. I'm just going to lock that off, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw through where the line sits, so we can see the midpoint of where the door will sit here as well. Okay, so that's all pretty good. And one of the things I wanted to show you with SketchUp as we go along is that if we double click on something or triple click, everything that's attached to it, it grabs as well. So in this case, that's fine. I'm going to also grab this pier here. And what I might do is actually just join these together with a line, so it's all one section. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that a group as well. So this is going to be the steel in the object as well. So I'll go and make a group. I've grouped those together, so they're two separate objects. Okay, so I've got the piers, which will be the steelwork, and that is grouped together as one, and the concrete pad that it sits on is separate. Okay, and the thing with that is I can grab one now, and if I need to, I can move it away, and they're not welded together. But whoops, I'll just realign that. What we can do that's a little bit neater here is we can add a layer and call that steelwork, and I can layer 0. I don't know if we can rename that or not. I think I'll just add a new one, and I'll call this floor slab. It's fine. And I'm going to add in, while I'm on the go, I'm going to add in another one called windows. I could call it glazing. It's up to you. Okay. And what I can do now is I can grab my arrow tool, spacebar helps select that as well. So I'll select my floor slab, and I've got entity info open here, and at the moment that's on layer 0, but let's just move that onto the floor slab layer. That's good. And then I'll grab the steelwork and I'll move that onto the steelwork layer. Okay, so the advantage of that then is that you can, if I wanted to hide the steelwork, I can just turn off the eye, and it allows me to see the other components in the building. Okay, so that is about where that's at the moment. If you want to, you can colour that steelwork, but it doesn't matter too much. So let's go and have a look at the front of the house here, where we got things going on, and I just need to push that all back into place again because it's gone a little out of whack. So in the case of this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this object. I'm going to grab it by that corner. I'm going to push it to that other corner. So if ever things do come out of alignment with SketchUp, try and just push it corner to corner, and it'll be nice and neat. There we go. Good one. Okay, so let's have a look at putting a window into the end of this structure. And it's a pretty simple operation. So we want to make sure that we haven't got any other objects selected here. That's good. And we'll hide our layers out of the way so we can see the maximum amount of screen. And what we want to do is basically come around through the midpoints and draw ourselves a nice solid plate here. Make sure they join up. And make sure that one joins up. There we go. Okay, so that gives us what's going to form our window structure. We'll make these windows, even though they're set back in and they'll look three-dimensional, they'll actually be fairly two-dimensional in their structure. So first thing we're going to do is start to put our frames in. So we're going to use our offset tool here. Actually, I don't mind at this stage because we're going to break it up. It's actually a lot more efficient if we choose a material for our frame color first. So I usually go for this iron. I don't mind it as a frame color. So I've got that selected out of my pencils, and we'll add the glass in next. So what I'm going to do is use my offset tool, click on it once, and I take my hands away from the keyboard, and I'm going to type in the size of that frame, and I'm going to add in a 50mm frame. Okay. So you can see now that's put a line around here. And the next thing I'm going to do is break this down into individual sashes. So I'm going to click on it once, and it gives me the full line. I'm using a mouse, so I can right click, and I'm going to now divide this. I'm going to go divide, and as I move my mouse now, you can see it's breaking it down into segments. So width of 1.50 m, that's not too bad. Look, it's an aesthetic decision as much as anything at this stage. So I'm going to go with 5 segments, that's fine. So I click once, and now I can come along with my pencil. I can click on those points that it's made, and I can rule down to create the structure of the window. Now watch out you don't do that. So I accidentally clicked on a midpoint that was blue or aqua. Stay with the green one, so just slide along till you get it. Come straight down. It's good. And then whoops, lights up green. We come down, and there should be one more panel just around here somewhere. Got to hunt around sometimes a little bit for it, and then I can just click down, and it's given me the it started to break that panel up into individual sashes. So now I'm going to click on one, and I'm going to inset this like another, say, we'll make it pretty bold. Let's make it another 50 mil, okay? Because it's a pretty heavy duty kind of structure, and then we can just kind of like go along and double click, and it'll give us the same amount. So we've got this, double click, and I always use kind of fairly standard measurements. So if I accidentally do lose my double click for some reason, I know it's 50, you know, instead of like 43.2 or some kind of strange measurement. So if you type in your measurements, it'll make your life a lot easier in the measurements panel. Okay, so I messed that one up. So what I can do is just, I can grab this now. I know it's 50. I can just really easily come in, type 50, and hit return. And I'll do it on the next one as well. You can use your shift key to select your arrow to save you going backwards and forwards too much. And I'll pull it in, type in 50, and it's done. Okay, so that gives me my window structure. And then I can just bring up my colors, and I can just quickly select this brick thing. And I tend to use this glass here, and I can just really quickly come across, and I can chuck those all in. I'll fill them in. So we've got our glass panel, okay? So that's coming together. And so what I tend to do, once I've got a glass panel like that, I will triple click on it, and then I'll make a group, edit, and I can make a group of this one. So I'll just come down here and make group, click on it. Okay, and now it's locked off. So now I can come down to my layers, and I can have a look at putting it onto a layer. So entity info tells me that this window is currently on layer 0, but let's move it onto the Windows layer. Okay, that's cool. And so now I've got the ability to turn that on and off, so we can see into the building later on if we want to check this model out and you know, look at its interior. Okay, so this is primarily a model, not so much for actually specifying a house, but building a prototype model for a house, so you can get the idea of the massing and how this house might look, you know, before it's built. Okay, so we can do the same with those windows, but let's have a look here at popping some block walls in for starters. Okay, so we can quite simply, these areas that we want to be block wall, we can just quite simply draw a square, okay, and we can raise them up, okay, and they can just sit in there, okay. We can give them a contrasting color in a minute. I'll tend to use something out of the crayon box, something like Mercury here. I can just sort of like paste it in there, grab the bucket. Good. Might go a bit darker actually. I might go up to aluminium. Okay, so these are going to be like concrete block walls. So I'll just colour those in fairly sort of neutral. Grey, and the steelwork, we can colour that as well. So sometimes I don't mind choosing just like a contrasting colour for the steelwork. You can just click on it, and that sets that as well. So we can start to see how the structure is coming together. Okay. We'll probably need, realistically, some more piers down the middle here. Okay, so when we want to do that, we can enter the steelwork again. So I can click on the steelwork, double click, you can see it takes me into the steelwork. I can actually, like, I don't know if it'll let me quite select that pier. I'm not really too fussed, but what I might do is draw down a little bit, maybe put one in halfway or something like that. So I might come in rocks here. Won't be too accurate because it'll take me too much time, but let's say 4500. Okay, so that's just in there. I'm using the pencil. Going to go 300. I'll zoom in a bit to have a look. So I'll come across, lights up green, I'll come across again, 300. There it is, and then oops, I'll just get a good angle on that. Okay, so that's where my next pier is going to be. So I can just select that and I can raise it up. Yeah, and I can just touch on here. Okay, and that gives me another piece of the puzzle of the structure as it comes together. Okay, so you can just keep working around, popping up piers where you need them to be within that structure. I can get rid of any pieces now that we don't want to keep it looking a bit tidier, and I can go around, create my windows now, my block wall. So I want to click out of this, and I'll triple click on my block wall, and I'll go edit, and let's make that a group as well. Okay, so not welding to things, and we might put in another layer and call this block wall. Great, and we'll move it on its entity info up to block wall. We're getting there. Okay, so it's something you've just got to keep working away at. So I'm going to put in some more block wall. So I'm going to go into edit for this, move my colors out of the way. I'm going to draw in a base where my block wall is going to go, just like that. And then I'm just going to raise it straight up, touch on that. So that's going to give me my black block wall. And I'm going to select my aluminium color and color that wall in. Okay, so there's my block wall. I've got space here for a door now, so it's up to you how you want to treat the door. You could have a super height, 3 meter height door, or you might choose to have one with a skylight or something. So let's come up like pretty high. So we'll put in a big door like 2400. So that'll be a bit of fun, and we can rule across. Okay, we can rule across here. Fill this in. That's good. And that can be part of our block wall if we want. So we can then just sort of start to fill this in. Just drawing in all the components. Okay, so we've got to draw every side. But we've got the framework to work to. Okay, that's good. And we can fit our door inside that. This door in then, so we're just going to go to View, Face Style, and to X-Ray. You can see when we turn on X-Ray, it's a little bit confusing, but we can see sort of midway through all our objects. So I'm just going to make sure I've got nothing selected, and then I can grab one side of my door and I can just draw straight up through, and that will give me a door that's nice and separate. So let's turn off Face Style again. Okay, so it's a little bit better, and then we can start to let's grab a color, and we can color our door, and we've got this block work up above here. We might just color that up so it's all the same. Okay, you get the idea. So we're starting to work on having a nice three-dimensional structure. So I'd go around and add more windows, and then once I get above that, I would start to click back on my steelwork again, and I would be then starting to extend this up. So I'm going to come up, I'll keep this quite cubic, so I'm going to come up 300, and I'm just going to come across, whoops, I'll just get my colours out of the road there, and I'm going to light things up. I'm going to come across, there's different ways of doing this, but it's just the way I like to do it. I kind of like just filling stuff in with the pencil as I go. And auto infer down and just fill it all in. That's good. Okay, so then I can just take that and I can bring it across as a single steel span, and I can keep coming along. Okay, so I can bring it right back to here, and then I can come over, I can block it off at this, I can just clip into this at 300, blue line tells me it's vertical, I can extrude this out, touch the line here, and then I'm going to do the same, come in 300, which I can tell from the structure. So I'm trying to keep this all quite modular and easy. Pull it right out, touch it on there, that's good. Okay, and then I'm going to just flip this around. That's it. I'll do the same, I'm just going to draw up here. And then I'm just going to bring that across. Okay, so now I've got like a box construction of girders around my object. It's looking good, everything's relatively to scale. And you can see that the components are now starting to come together. So if you work through this, you'll have a good idea of how to get started. You can quite easily build a roof structure on top of this, and look, that's not too hard. I might show you that in a separate video. I think that's probably enough for now.